And welcome to the Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that wants to tell you it knows for a fact that Betty White died in 1963. And what you're seeing on TV now is simply her reanimated remains that was brought back to life by a secret government program called Project Golden Girl. Weird, huh? Because of the TV show? Anyway, I gotta tell you something. I heard something recently that was kind of amusing. I heard recently that the IRS is planning on auditing Sherlock Holmes. The IRS is planning on auditing Sherlock Holmes. Because of all of his deductions! I'm sorry. Anyway, with that lead-in, we're going to talk to you today all about I Say Holmes from Victory Point Games. I Say Holmes, a new card game from Victory Point Games, 3 to 8 players are going to attempt to solve the most cases and become the greatest detective ever. Or maybe a kooky villain escaping. You never know. How the game is played is each player receives a hand of cards, and you're trying to get rid of your cards, but you're trying to do so in a way that continues a story. Essentially, you play a card not in front of yourself, but in front of the person to your left. And the card you play, more often than not, is going to have certain locations or other kinds of cards that you can play. Travel locations, things like dense fog, perhaps actions you can play. And then that person must play one of those cards from their hand in front of the next person. But if they don't have a card that continues the story, they must draw a card from the deck. Now, this goes around, and what you're trying to do is to get rid of the cards in your hand. And you can do this in a few ways. Now, first of all, if you can just get rid of all your cards naturally, you can then try to arrest someone. Now, you can arrest someone with an arrest card, but if you get rid of your cards, you can do what is called an impromptu arrest. What you do is you try to pick somebody else who is in the circle and that you think has a villain card. And if you call them and you say, I think you've got a villain card, assuming they don't have a card that can defend against your arrest, they then lay down their cards and you've won that round because you've arrested the villain. If you're wrong, however, you get all their cards, and then they draw a new number of cards equal to those that just surrendered to you. So it could be a bad thing to make a false accusation. Now, the other way you can win is if you get rid of all of the cards in your hand, save a villain card or cards, and maybe I think there's one or two other kinds of cards, you then are the villain and you have escaped, and you win that round. Now, as I say, there are various actions you can play. If somebody tries to arrest you, you can play an alibi card to get out of it. You're also traveling. Some of the cards say you can play a similar location, meaning you're either in the city or you're in the country, or you can play travel cards, travel by carriage, or travel by train. These kind of affect how the cards, kind of play out, how the story plays out around the board. But in a nutshell, that's the basic idea. Every hand, every round, you're trying to get rid of your cards. And first one to do so becomes the greatest detective. You add up all the numbers on all the cards, and then they can pick one of the case books based on that number or below. They take that. That's how many kind of victory points they get for the end of the game. There's also a few other things here. You can play I Say cards, and I Say cards actually have some of the iconic characters from Sherlock Holmes, including Dr. Watson, Mycroft Holmes, Mrs. Hudson, and of course the great detective Sherlock Holmes himself. I Say cards also let you take I Say tokens. There's hats, there's magnifying glasses, there's pipes, and they give you just some additional points. Also, there's some of the cards you can play are telegram cards. You can give people telegram cards, and you're not going to want a telegram card because if you get a telegram card, it's usually negative victory points, and those things are nasty. There's also some fun things you can do. You play certain kinds of action cards. You can force other players to draw cards. You can see cards in other players' hands. It's very, very kind of straightforward. There's a few little in the rules, a few little things we kind of had to read through a few times to get, but generally it's a pretty straightforward game here. So what do I think of I Say Holmes, the case-solving card game? Well, the game plays, as I say, very straightforward. You play a card. If you don't have that card, you don't have a card that you can play, you have to draw a card. You're trying to get rid of your cards. One of my friends described it as a more thematic Uno. I don't know that I'd go quite that far, but shades of Uno do pop up there. Plays very differently, but that idea of getting rid of the cards and whatnot. The game is thematic. I love Sherlock Holmes. I've read all the Sherlock Holmes stories that Conan Doyle wrote. I enjoy it, and I think this does a very good job of putting you in that kind of Holmesian mind and time and place. And I like that quite a bit. Gameplay itself, I was hoping it was going to be a little bit more deductive. I hoped that you were going to be using reasoning a bit more. Now, at times, you do have those options to look at other people's cards if you play certain action cards, and that's cool, but there's kind of not enough of that. And so really what it boils down to, when you're making an arrest or making an impromptu arrest, more often than not, it's a shot in the dark. You're saying, I think he's got it. And then, even if he has a villain, he may have an alibi card, and it doesn't really help. It doesn't benefit you in those circumstances. So there's not really a whole lot of deduction. There is some in this game, but it's not enough. Not enough for what I was expecting, I guess I should say. So that was something of a disappointment. Another friend said he thought the game kind of played itself, where, okay, you play this card, I can play one of these cards, or I have to draw one. Well, I gotta draw one. Oh, okay, I can play this one. And it just seemed it was very routine. It almost felt like he said it was on autopilot a lot of the game. And I can see where he's coming from. Again, I don't know that I quite agree, because the theme kind of sucked me in, and so and because I'm such a Sherlock Holmes fan, the theme really kind of held me there. I like some of the quotes and stuff that are in there right out of Conan Doyle, which I quite enjoyed. But at the end of the day, I think this is a decent card game. I think it's fun enough, particularly if you are a Sherlock Holmes fan. But I don't know that this is a great game. I think it's a good game. And I might even go so far as to say it's a good game with some flaws. The flaws being that it kind of puts it out there as a game of deduction, and it's not really a game of deduction, at least not to the extent you think it's going to be. Good game, not a great game. So the recommendation for the discriminating gamer for I'll Say Holmes is try it before you buy it. You like Sherlock Holmes, you'll get a kick out of it. If not, I don't know that you will. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment here on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on Facebook, or on our website, thediscriminatinggamer.com. And please like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. We are The Discriminating Gamer, and it's not a real pipe. I'm a Mormon.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that
Damn straight!